All right, welcome.
Hey, welcome.
So I will get your game going, and perhaps while I play the game, do you think you could introduce yourself and describe how it was that you decided on this idea for the game jam?
Okay, so hi, I'm Geegaz, and I'm the creator of Out of Controls. Yeah, sorry for the name. And so how did I decide of this thing? Well, so as soon as the jam started, I took a notepad and I wrote all the ideas I could find from the theme, with all the interpretations that first came to my mind. Then for each of them, I thought about how they could be fun and original. Like I have the pad here right beside my laptop, and I can tell I literally wrote down the criteria like design, innovation, and creativity to keep them in mind. So yeah, there was many cards to use, place to advance, platformer where the character moves and so on. Ball moving from left to right and that you have to control with ramps. So yeah, I tried to see for each how much potential the idea has, like the famous potential, and how much I could build and expand on each mechanic. But at the same time, like how I was comfortable with it and how I could make, like concretely, how I could make it a game. And that's how I was settled on the platformer. And you can place keys in the game to progress. Seemed original enough, and I had ideas to turn it into a puzzle platformer.
Yeah, I hope everyone is seeing as I'm playing now just the creativity on show here. This is why I really do like this game. I love the art. I find the pixel art is really appealing. Like it all just seems to have come together so nicely. So I suspect, do you have a background in game development?
Not really, actually. I'm pretty new to this. Like I'm a student in computer science, and I just happened to study pixel art for like 4 or 5 years, and this is my second jam. So yeah, no, I don't have a background in game dev.
Well, I'd say it still turned out fantastic. Have you made games for jams before?
Yeah, actually, I have participated in the last Ludum Dare. Yeah, that's it. So I was the artist in this jam, and here I had to go alone because the person I was going to go with had issues with their families. So yeah, not this time.
I would say that it still seems to have turned out excellently. So great job on that.
Thanks.
So perhaps I can get into one of my next questions here, which was, what was your development process for the game? Did you start with artwork? Did you start with programming? How did it come together?
Actually, it's I see my notes. I just wrote, oh boy. No, my development process was mostly that I took some assets that I had previously, like prototyping assets that I had for another game I'm making at the same time, and I just went with it, like tried to create the mechanic with just color cubes, and from there I just polished it, and when it was ready, I started doing the actual art, and it was like alternating between making the art, integrating with what's already programmed in the game, and then going back to some missing art, implementing new mechanics, seeing what I'm missing, and doing step by step until I have everything in the game.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I love that it has like you've managed to get like a title screen, you've got an ending to it. It feels like a complete game. So super well done there.
Thanks. But actually, I think I was going for something that could be expanded post Jam. I think that's one of your last questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to have something that was solid, so I could reuse it and maybe continue simply.
Yeah, because I think that it's something that a lot of people can get carried away with as they end up developing, well, too much game for the scope of a jam. And even the people who come to play it, there are 5,000 of these games that have been submitted, over 5,000. And there's no way that people are going to be able to sit down and play through your, like, you know, game if it's A, too hard and demands too many repetitions, or B, you've planned out a whole bunch of content, but the content isn't as high quality because you focused on quantity instead. So that's why I really wanted to commend you for choosing something that seems to be a great balance that isn't doesn't overstay its welcome. I feel like, you know, there's for now there's only one opportunity where I have to give up my ability to jump to block some cannons, but I can imagine other opportunities to use something like that.
Yeah, we'll get to this point after, I think. But yeah, here I just chose what mechanics I absolutely wanted in the jam because I was prioritizing just the basic mechanic and adding some hazards around to make it more challenging and yeah, just the shooters, like the thing that shoots fireballs. Something I wanted to add to, like I said, expand the possibilities because your blocks are not just platforms. They're also used to block dangers that can come. And that's something I absolutely wanted in the jam.
Yeah,
so yeah,
sure.
Prioritizing things. I have other ideas, but that's really the main game.
Right. Do you feel like there is a point where you had to like hack something together to get it to work in time for the jam, like something that you wouldn't do on a longer form project?
So I don't think there's particularly a feature that I wouldn't do in a regular jam, in a regular game, because as I said, I was making it so I could use it in a bigger game, which is not recommended for jam, clearly. But what I can think of, though, is how I handled the ground collision. So it's more of a trick than a big hack, and I definitely use it in a regular game. So you know how there are a lot of things in a platformer that makes it feel good to play.
Right.
Looking at one particular video, one of them is to allow jumping a bit before you reach the ground. Usually, you'd use an input buffer, like something to buffer what controls were pressed a few frames before. Well, it appears I don't know to do that. So what I have are two really short raycasts pointing down to the ground, and I only allow the player to jump if one of them is colliding with the ground. So it's pretty simple, and it worked well to this day.
Yeah. There's that one, there's coyote time, there's a whole bunch of little tricks that go into making, like, if you've ever wondered why a sort of like out of the box platformer doesn't feel as good as Mario, even though it's like, well, I don't understand, it supports all the same things. Like, there is so much stuff going on under the hood, just beneath the surface, that you might not realize.
Yeah, what you can see right here is that actually the character jumps higher when you keep the spacebar pressed, and there is a coyote time. Actually, I think that's the only mechanics I really had to implement that I absolutely wanted into the game too. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to give chat an opportunity to start submitting questions if anyone has anything they want to ask. And I'd like to move on. The next thing I had to ask was, is there anything that you had to cut or change in order to finish the game on time?
Yes. Because that's one of the main complaints I received. Like, the game is too short. I want more. And, well, kind of okay to me. Because, well, that means that at least I managed to catch your attention. Now, the real problem is that I slapped the tutorial and the level design a few hours before submitting. And it shows. Like, the last part of the level is way too hard and unclear compared to the previous sections. That's something that really caused a lot of streamers to quit the game just a few blocks before the end. And since the tutorial does more tell than show, a lot of people had a hard time understanding that you can click the empty slots of the bar to retrieve the controls. And that's something that had some people like reset the game multiple times because they thought that, oh no, I lost control. How am I going to do? And so yeah, I think near the end, I chose to focus on the wrong things.
Well,
also,
yeah, go ahead.
Never do what I did before the deadline. There were only like 10 minutes left, and only there, I decided to actually build the game and create the page. So Godot is fast to build. That's what I use. And so it took around 1 or 2 seconds to build the game. So I ended up submitting an empty page with just the applause 6 minutes before the end. Don't do that.
Yeah. 6 minutes is rough. I submitted my first build about an hour before the jam ended, and then I went into quick fix mode for that last hour, and I managed to get another build up like 5 minutes before the end. But I was going to say from before where you were describing like difficulty tuning and creating tutorials are always the things that are difficult to do in the context of a game jam, because those are both things that take a deceptively long amount of time and player feedback to get right. So if any game jam is going to have trouble, it's probably going to be in those areas. Well, I would say first and foremost, you're going to have trouble with scope. You're going to have trouble with people not finishing their games in time because they didn't, they planned out too much. They started into too many things and they didn't get a chance to finish it. Exactly. I've seen plenty of people with submission times that are like a minute before the timer, under a minute before the game jam ended. So I don't think, 6 minutes sounds like it was right down to the wire, but you weren't alone. There were other people pushing it even further.
That was definitely the movie to do it that late, but yeah, you said something about scope. I think the scope was okay, but I was really too finicky with some features.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you've scoped it out, once you have an idea of what it is you want to make, then you have to focus on actually making it like it is in your head. So. It's all about knowing when to cut the cord and decide like, okay, this is as good as it's going to be. I've just got to put it out there. Otherwise it's not going to be finished.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, we do actually have one question in here from chat, which is what was the hardest feature / mechanic for you to implement?
That's an easy one actually. I think the hardest feature to implement was the drag and drop system, but more precisely, retrieving the block. Because what you can see in the game is that I have this screen layer that doesn't move. Like it stays at the same place in the screen, but you have to reparent. That means taking the control out of this screen and reparenting it with the world. And then when you click, parenting it back to the screen layer. And so that was really tricky because when you are going from world pose, like from a layer to another, you have to worry about the world position. Where are you going to put your control? and the fact that sometimes objects will render under the parent. So I had to make sure that the controls were on the right layer, that they didn't render under the world. You can see that happen in the first seconds. Like the first time you take a control in the world, it appears under the world, and I have absolutely no idea of why that happens. But then it's fun. So yeah, that's what gave me the worst nightmares about this game.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty common thing to run into anytime you're trying to deal with, like, it seems like something that should be trivial and easy, but when you're dealing with that transition between screen space and world space, it's always a challenge. Now, speaking of challenge, I was really hoping to beat the game a second time on the stream here. Anyway, I've played through it twice, once before, and then now again at the beginning of the stream, but I just wanted to run it again for anyone joining a bit later. So moving on, another question that I had was, what are your plans for the game going forward? I know that throughout this interview, you've mentioned a couple times that you wanted to build a good foundation so that you'd be able to add onto it. Is there anything that you want to talk about right now, or would you just want to keep it a secret and say that there's more coming?
No, actually, it's not really a secret, because I've published the game on GitHub. Like, it's the repository is public and available, and then you can find all the releases and pre-releases, like the Jam release. And I'm continuing the development of this, so I aim to get a proper working web game, a short thing, and yeah, I've already made a post-Jam release that fixes most of the problems that you can encounter in the Jam version of the game, and I definitely intend to make a full release of it. So yeah, follow the repository. It's in the game's description.
Awesome, that's great. Yeah, so people can check it out. It's right there. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so as we start to wrap things up here, is there where can people find you? Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Not really. You can check my GitHub. You can check my Twitter if you want. I post retweet a lot of pixel art and game dev. But else, I'd say, I just want to say, check out Pedros Medeiros, the creator of the pixel art of Celeste, who's my main inspiration. He makes amazing pixel art tutorials, and really for anyone that wishes to learn pixel art, I say go see his tutorials. He makes one GIF tutorials that are really complete and great to learn pixel art. So yeah. Really good reference.
Do you think you'd be able to send one of those to me in Discord, and I'll post it into the chat?
I can give you the link to the page.
Yeah, perfect.
But let's go.
Okay. Doesn't have to be right this second. I'll start to wrap things up, and you can send it to me in between. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me for this interview today. I think that there's been it's a really cool insight. Everyone has a different way of putting a game together, especially in the context of a game jam. So here is the link that you've just sent me. I'll drop that into chat. And so thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you. Thank you a lot for having me. And
absolutely.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too.